On December 19, 1981, the sun decided it was too shy for today as it hid behind the gray clouds looming over California. Many were bothered by the overcast weather, and not many souls ventured to the coastlines of the beach-clad state. However, enthusiasts and surfers wanted to take advantage of the storm swell caused by the cold, windy weather. Louis Archer Boren, a curly-haired adventure seeker, woke up to his alarm. Although most people would sleep off Saturday mornings, the ocean always welcomed him. He planned to surf South Moss Beach's waves with his friend Mark, expecting it to be just another typical day. He quickly got up from bed, ate breakfast, and said goodbye to his parents. He strapped his 5'4" surfboard, colored yellow and black, on the roof rack of his car. The silhouette of a surfer on the board eerily looked like a seal, but Louis didn't think much of it then. As he maneuvered the car out of the residence, unbeknownst to him, this would be his last goodbye. He drove carefully, reaching South Moss Beach early in the morning before the rendezvous time. The smell of the ocean permeated the air, promising Louis another excellent surfing session. Since 1899, there have been 6 fatal shark attacks in California, 5 from great white sharks. While this pattern would easily send chills down anyone's spine, deadly shark attacks are not that frequent. Additionally, surfers know the risk they're putting themselves in while practicing their sport. Unfortunately, Louis never knew he would be the victim of one such brutal attack. Louis and his friend Mark stood patiently on the coastline, peering across the lonely, turbulent sea of South Moss Beach. The waves were blown out on the reef, scaling up to 15 feet high, driven by the cold winds that day. Not a single soul was riding the waves. How could they not take advantage of this? The 2 men pulled on their wetsuits, laughing and talking, catching up as friends would do. They paced along the coastline for a while, stalking the opportunity and getting a general feel of the atmosphere. Louis and Mark were experienced surfers, and the ocean felt like their home. They entered the cold waters and paddled out, floating on the surface. They waited for the perfect opportunity when the winds favored their request. They lay down on their stomachs, paddling slowly and then quickly, sighting the incoming waves from their periphery. It was an almost perfect synchronicity. The 2 young men prepped for the exhilarating moment as the wave warmly welcomed them. They pushed against their boards, propping their torsos like cobras, and in one fluid motion, Louis and Mark jumped to their knees, taking a couple of waves in this position. They did this over and over until morning faded into the afternoon. Eventually, it was time to go. They returned to the parking area and enjoyed their lunch, talking about surfing, life, family, and other things young men in their 20s spoke about. At approximately 2 p.m., Louis and Mark parted ways, not realizing this was the last time they'd see each other. Louis felt an urge in his chest as he dazedly stood beside his car. He bathed in the deserted scenery and decided to hit the waters one more time, just another short session, and then he'd go home, or so he thought. Louis returned to the beach, pacing along the coastline and trying to get a feel for things again. This time he was truly alone. However, it didn't matter to Louis. The storm swell did not happen daily, and he wanted to take advantage of the great waves. He donned his wetsuit and began paddling into the open waters. The churning ocean filled the air, and a dreading atmosphere washed over Louis. Unbeknownst to him, a fearsome creature, the largest great white shark ever recorded, watched from beneath the surface. The great white shark tilted its head, moving swiftly a few meters under Louis. The 24-year-old paddled unwittingly, swimming towards his demise. Fish around the area scrambled in fear, making way for the king. The shark appeared from the shadows, rearing its formidable head into the light. But Louis did not see the creature. The gloomy weather ensured anything a few meters below him would stay where they were in the dark, out of sight and out of mind. The shark moved like a submarine, precise, deadly, and cautious. The 400 million years of evolution taught it to become almost invisible in the ocean, following the movements of its prey. The great white shark followed Louis, still unaware of the danger. Louis's fate was sealed at that very moment. Placing itself strategically a few feet below the surfboard, the great white shark suddenly went into gear, propelling 2,000 pounds of brute force towards the surface. The water exploded into chaos as the creature's massive jaws, laced with 5 rows of teeth, clamped onto Louis. Lewis fought back, paddling away at the water, but it was like a train had struck him. The immense force knocked Lewis back from his surfboard, causing him to sink into the ocean's depths. The single curious bite removed a portion of Lewis's left chest. Before he knew and understood what was happening, he was already dying. Lewis faded into the depths, instantly succumbing to his injury. The water drew its curtains, hiding the horror underneath it. And just like that, South Moss Beach's eerie silence swept away Lewis Archer Boren's tragic fate. The next day, 2 surfers found a surfboard with a portion missing and reported it to the authorities. Lewis's remains were later discovered in a small cove, confirming the most giant great white shark ever recorded was responsible for the fatal attack. Subsequent investigations of the bite marks revealed something even more sinister. Based on the segment chopped from the surfboard, a marine biologist concluded that the shark's jaws were 18 inches wide. This indicated the shark's length was more or less 23 feet, weighing 2 tons. They had no doubt it was a great white shark and the largest ever documented in all metrics. Lewis was no match for the massive predator. Experts say sharks do not attack people purposely because they don't consider humans part of their food source. In Lewis's case, it was more likely an exploratory bite. Unfortunately, the behemoth shark was never seen again. Thanks to their highly sophisticated language, coordination, and innovation, humans have remained on top of the food chain for the longest time. Humanity has managed to control the environment to its liking, turning its surroundings into what would benefit the population best. Lewis's tragic fate serves as a grim reminder of the unpredictable and powerful nature of the ocean. While he loved and respected the ocean, he couldn't have predicted the encounter with such a massive predator. As news of the incident spread, the local community and surfers were shaken. Once a beloved surfing spot, South Moss Beach now had a haunting reputation. The memory of Lewis's death lingered in the minds of those who loved the ocean, forever altering their relationship with the powerful tides. The loss of Lewis Archer Boren left a void in the lives of his family and friends. His parents, devastated by the sudden tragedy, couldn't believe their adventurous son was taken so abruptly. Mark, Lewis's friend, was guilty, blaming himself for not convincing Lewis to call it a day after their morning session. Over the years, South Moss Beach gradually returned to its serene and picturesque setting. But the memory of the largest shark ever recorded remained, etched into the minds of all who knew of the incident. It was a day that anyone spending time in the outer Cape lived for. The sun was shining, the temperature had climbed to 80 degrees, and the waves were perfect for surfing. Newcomb Hollow, a picturesque beach in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, was the epitome of paradise. Arthur Mitchell and Isaac Thompson, 2 best friends, were excited as they ran from the parking lot to glimpse the waves. They had been waiting for this day, and it was even better than they had hoped. The ocean beckoned them with its crystal-clear waters and gentle curls, inviting them to ride the waves on their surfboards. Shirley Durden, a concerned mother, stood on the shore, watching her daughter, Emily Durden, an adventurous surfer, suit up to join the fun. She tried to dissuade her from entering the water, but Emily assured her that all the signs pointed to a safe day for surfing. Unbeknownst to them, danger lurked beneath the idyllic surface. A massive great white shark, measuring nearly 20 feet in length, had caught the scent of potential prey. Hunger gnawed at its gut, driving it to venture into the shallows, a rare occurrence for this apex predator. As Emily waded into the water with Arthur and Isaac, the anticipation of a perfect surf day filled the air. Little did they know that a silent predator lurked beneath the waves, watching their every move with calculating eyes. Suddenly, a shadow emerged from the depths, and with lightning speed, the great white shark closed the distance between them. In a split second, it lunged at Arthur, its jaws clamping down on his lower body with bone-crushing force. A blood-curdling scream escaped Arthur's lips as the beast's razor-sharp teeth tore into his flesh. Panic and pain consumed him as he fought to escape the beast's unyielding grip. The water turned crimson as the shark's deadly assault sent shockwaves through the crowd. Emily and Isaac were frozen in horror, unable to comprehend the nightmare unfolding before them. The beach erupted into chaos as everyone rushed to help, their survival instincts kicking in. The sound of Arthur's desperate cries for help pierced the air, igniting a primal fear in the hearts of the onlookers. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the beachgoers sprang into action, propelled by a collective determination to save their fellow surfer. Some grabbed surfboards and paddled out to create a makeshift barrier between the shark and its prey, hoping to divert its attention away from the wounded. Others waded into the water, their hearts pounding in their chests, and formed a human chain to drag Arthur back to the shore. Enraged and hungry, the shark continued to thrash and twist, making their task nearly impossible. The water churned with chaos as the shark relentlessly pursued its prey, its powerful tail leaving white froth. For a moment it seemed like the predator might overpower the human chain, sending a surge of fear through the crowd. But the beachgoers refused to give in to terror. They called for more help and stood their ground, unified in their mission to save Arthur's life. It was a battle of wills between man and beast, a struggle that would determine the fate of the young surfer. The minutes felt like an eternity as the rescue effort intensified. The shark's eyes, cold and unfeeling, seemed to assess the humans' determination, gauging whether they were worthy adversaries. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the human chain managed to pull Arthur to the safety of the shore. The wounded surfer was gasping for breath, his body racked with pain, but the battle was over. The shark continued to circle, its dark silhouette visible beneath the surface, as if taunting the humans for daring to challenge its supremacy. Fear hung heavy in the air, but so did determination. The beachgoers formed a protective barrier around Arthur, refusing to back down from the predatory menace that lurked just beyond their reach. At that moment, they embodied the primal instinct to protect themselves, defy the natural order, and fight for survival. The beach, once a place of leisure and joy, now becomes an arena for a life-and-death struggle between humans and predators. As the minutes turned into hours, the shark finally retreated, sensing that the humans were not easy prey. It disappeared back into the depths, leaving behind a traumatized community, forever changed by the terrifying encounter. Using a boogie board strap as a makeshift tourniquet, they desperately tried to stop the bleeding from Arthur's severely injured legs. But the shark bites had caused critical injuries and a dire situation. Emergency services were summoned, but the journey to the nearest trauma center was long. The community held its breath, praying for a miracle, but Arthur's injuries proved fatal tragically. The once vibrant and adventurous young man succumbed to the devastating attack. The hospital became a place of heartbreak as family and friends struggled to accept the loss. Isaac, who witnessed the attack, could hardly comprehend the magnitude of the tragedy. The incident profoundly impacted the community, a stark reminder of the delicate balance between humans and the untamed sea. As the sun set on that fateful day, a somber atmosphere enveloped Newcomb Hollow. The loss of Arthur served as a poignant reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the fragility of life. His memory would forever linger in the hearts of those who knew and loved him, forever altering their perception of the ocean and its untamed inhabitants. The incident also left Emily deeply affected. She couldn't erase the memory of the attack from her mind, and the once thrilling prospect of surfing now filled her with fear. Once her playground, the ocean now seemed like a vast and unpredictable wilderness. Newcomb Hollow remained a beautiful beach, but the shadows cast by the tragic event would never completely fade away. In the summer of 2002, off the pristine coast of famous Fishhook Beach, a picturesque location in an unnamed coastal town, a danger lurked beneath the idyllic surface. It was a perfect day with blue skies, warm sunshine, and crystal-clear waters. Vacationers flocked to the beach seeking respite from their daily lives. Little did they know that a massive great white shark, measuring nearly 20 feet in length, had caught the scent of potential prey. Hunger gnawed at its gut and ventured into the shallows, a rare occurrence for this apex predator. Among the visitors that day was Eric Mitchell, a 37-year-old engineer from Harare, Zimbabwe, who was enjoying a holiday with his partner's family. The sun glinted off his goggles as he waded into the water with Sam and Jake, his partner's sons. They laughed and splashed around, unaware of the peril lurking beneath the surface. As they swam, the shark quickly closed the distance between them. The water churned violently as the massive predator zeroed in on its target. Its jaws clamped down on Eric's lower body in a horrifying moment. Panic and pain consumed him as he screamed for help, but the beast's grip was unrelenting. Sam and Jake were frozen in terror as they witnessed the attack unfold before their eyes. Time seemed to slow as they saw the sheer power of the shark's bite, and the sight of Eric being pulled under was etched into their minds forever. The beach erupted into chaos as everyone rushed to help. The once serene shoreline turned into a frenzy of panicked screams and desperate pleas for assistance. The shark's thrashing tail indicated it had caught its prey, a sight all too familiar when seals were attacked. The water turned red with Eric's blood, adding to the scene's horror. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the beachgoers did everything they could to save Eric. Some frantically called for help, while others rushed to the water's edge, unsure what to do. A brave lifeguard, Emily, swam towards the commotion, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew the danger they were all facing, but had to act fast. Grabbing a nearby boogie board, Emily paddled towards the struggling young man. The shark had not yet retreated. She could see it circling below the surface. Its cold, dead eyes sent shivers down her spine, but she pushed through the fear. She knew they had to get Eric to safety before it returned for another strike. With every ounce of strength, Emily pulled Eric onto the boogie board and started swimming towards the shore. Her arms burned with exertion, and the weight of Eric's body felt like an anchor pulling her down. She kicked her legs with all her might, determined to reach the safety of the beach. Meanwhile, the other beachgoers formed a human chain, shouting and splashing to scare the shark away. Some brave souls ventured into the water, armed with anything they could find to fend off the predator. They banged on the surface, hoping the noise would startle the shark and force it to retreat. The collective effort created a cacophony of noise, a desperate attempt to deter the predator and buy Emily and Eric precious seconds. Fear was palpable, but the determination to save a life was more vital. The adrenaline-fueled crowd refused to back down, united in their mission to protect one of their own. With each stroke, Emily felt the weight of the situation on her shoulders. She could hear Eric's labored breathing, a reminder that every second counted. The water around them seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the shark's next move. Every nerve in Emily's body screamed at her to swim faster, to reach the shore before it was too late. As they finally reached the shallows, the crowd rushed forward to help pull Eric to safety. Emily collapsed onto the sand, gasping for breath. Her heart pounded as she looked back at the water, half expecting the shark to return for another attack. Emily could see the extent of Eric's injuries as she reached the shore. His lower body was badly mangled and he was losing blood rapidly. She shouted for help, and the crowd sprang into action. Despite the frantic efforts of the paramedics, Eric's injuries were severe. He was rushed to the hospital, fighting for his life. The news spread through the beach community like wildfire, and a somber cloud hung over the once joyful atmosphere. The beachgoers were left in shock and grief, praying for Eric's recovery. Doctors and nurses fought tirelessly in the hospital to save Eric's life, but his injuries were too severe. Eric succumbed to his wounds despite their best efforts, leaving a devastated family and a community in mourning. The loss of such a vibrant and caring individual sent shockwaves through everyone present that day. Despite the tragedy, the danger was not yet over. The great white shark remained in the vicinity, drawn by the scent of blood. Authorities immediately closed the beach, warning all swimmers and surfers to stay out of the water. A tense atmosphere hung over the once vibrant beach, now marred by the presence of a relentless predator. The conflict to solve became clear. The community had to ensure the safety of its visitors. A shark warning system was urgently needed but would take time to implement. In the meantime, everyone had to remain vigilant and follow strict safety guidelines. Sam and Jake, both shaken by the incident, decided to cut their holiday short and return home. The attack had a profound effect on them, and they couldn't bear to stay in the place where tragedy struck. As the days passed, the community came together to mourn the loss of young Eric and discuss how they could prevent such a tragedy from happening again. The town rallied behind implementing a shark warning system, and fundraisers were organized to gather the necessary funds. Months later, the warning system was finally installed, giving beachgoers an extra layer of protection. The incident scarred everyone's hearts, but united the community in a shared safety goal. As time passed, the memory of that fateful day slowly faded, but the impact remained. Families continued to visit famous Fishhook Beach, enjoying its beauty while never forgetting the importance of safety. In the coastal town of Port Lincoln, Australia, nestled along the breathtaking Eyre Peninsula, the azure waters held secrets that both fascinated and terrified the locals. Port Lincoln was renowned as Australia's seafood capital and a popular tourist destination due to its stunning scenery and oceanfront environment. It was the perfect spot for yachting, scuba diving, shark cage diving, and game fishing, drawing adventurers and thrill-seekers worldwide. On a warm and sunny March 1985, Shirley Ann Durden, her husband Barry, and their 4 children changed forever. The Durdens had fulfilled their dream of living by the beach near Port Lincoln, and they spent their days basking in the sun, fishing, and scuba diving. Shirley, a loving housewife, relished the opportunity to explore the underwater world that the ocean offered. One fateful day, Keith Coventry, a friend of Barry's, joined them on a scuba diving trip to search for fresh scallops. They donned their diving gear, excited for a day of adventure beneath the waves. Little did they know that a tragedy of epic proportions was about to unfold. The 3 adults waded into the clear, shallow waters. At the same time, their children played gleefully on the sandy beach, building sandcastles and enjoying the perfect day. The turquoise water glistened under the golden sun, seemingly serene and inviting. Beneath the idyllic surface, danger lurked in the ocean's dark depths. A massive great white shark, measuring nearly 20 feet in length, had caught the scent of potential prey carried by the currents. It had been weeks since its last meal, and hunger gnawed at its gut, pushing the predator to its limits. Driven by an insatiable need for sustenance, it ventured into the shallows, a rare and desperate occurrence for this apex predator. As Shirley swam back to the shore with a bag of glistening scallops, she had no idea that the ultimate predator was lurking nearby, its cold, beady eyes fixed on her every movement. The ocean's surface shimmered with the golden hues of the setting sun, casting an illusion of tranquility, hiding the predator's sinister intentions. The calm waters turned turbulent in a heartbeat as the great white shark propelled itself with incredible force toward its unsuspecting prey. Its muscular tail thrashed, pushing its massive body like a torpedo beneath the surface. With every stroke, it closed the distance between them, its sheer power evident in the trail of churning water it left behind. In the blink of an eye, the predator burst from the water's depths, its gaping maw ready to claim its prize. Its rows of razor-sharp teeth gleamed menacingly in the fading light as it honed in on Shirley. Terror gripped her heart as she caught a glimpse of the enormous, shadowy figure approaching her with terrifying speed. With a primal instinct, Shirley tried to escape, but the predator's speed was unmatched. Its massive jaws clamped down on her lower body in a horrifying moment, its teeth sinking deep into her flesh. An ear-piercing cry of pain and terror erupted from her lips, but the water quickly muffled it. The sudden impact sent shockwaves of pain through her body as the great white's vice-like grip tightened, rendering her helpless. She thrashed wildly, desperate to break free, but the beast's strength was overwhelming. Each movement sent searing pain through her body as the predator shook its head violently, its teeth tearing into her with primal ferocity. Bubbles of air escaped from Shirley's mouth as she fought to breathe, her lungs burning with the urgency of survival. But the great white's grip remained unyielding, its ancient instincts taking over as it subdued its prey. Panic consumed her as she realized the gravity of her situation. She was trapped at the mercy of one of the ocean's most fearsome predators. Time seemed to slow down as the predator's relentless assault continued. The struggle played out in a gruesome ballet of death and desperation. Shirley's pleas for help were futile, drowned out by the merciless force of the predator's attack. With each passing moment, her strength waned, her body succumbing to the overwhelming power of the predator. Her vision blurred, and darkness surrounded her, threatening to claim her consciousness. She felt an eerie sense of resignation as her life hung in the balance, knowing her fate was sealed. In a final act of brutality, the great white delivered one last powerful shake, releasing its grip on Shirley's broken and lifeless form. The water around her turned crimson with her blood, a grim testament to the ferocity of the predator's attack. As the predator retreated into the depths, leaving behind a trail of destruction, the ocean's surface returned to its deceptive calm. Shirley's lifeless body floated motionless, a tragic reminder of the merciless power that lurked beneath the tranquil waters. Barry and Keith watched in horror as Shirley was dragged beneath the water's surface. Adrenaline surged through their bodies as they tried to comprehend what had just happened. They rushed towards her, desperate to save her, but it was too late. The water turned crimson as the shark tore Shirley apart, its mighty jaws shaking her body with brutal force. The sight was too much to bear for Barry and Keith, who were frozen in shock and disbelief. The children on the shore witnessed the nightmare unfold before their innocent eyes. Their laughter turned into cries of terror and sorrow. Once a place of joy and wonder, the beach became the site of a heart-wrenching tragedy. As Shirley's lifeless body floated to the surface, beachgoers rushed, but there was nothing they could do to save her. The great white shark had vanished into the depths, leaving behind devastation and grief. The Durdens' world shattered that day, leaving them with a void that could never be filled. The once blissful beach now held haunting memories of loss and tragedy. The community came together to offer support and solace, but the pain of Shirley's absence lingered. The great white shark, a fearsome creature feared by many, had claimed another victim. Its reputation as a ruthless predator had been proven true, a stark reminder of the unpredictable and dangerous nature of the ocean. Shirley's memory lived on in the hearts of her loved ones, and her tragic tale became a cautionary one, warning others of the ocean's power and the creatures that dwell within. The sun continued to shine on Port Lincoln's beaches, but its warmth could never fully reach the depths of the Durdens' grief. Port Lincoln remained a beautiful destination, but the shadow of that fateful day lingered, a constant reminder of the fragility of life. On January 26, 1989, Roy Stoddard and Tamara McAllister, a boyfriend and girlfriend, set out for their usual kayaking and swimming training on the waters of West Malibu, California. They were both 24 years old, adventurous, and loved spending time outdoors, hiking, camping, and kayaking together. That morning, they planned to train for an upcoming triathlon they would compete in together. They were inseparable and enjoyed each other's company in all their outdoor activities. They were teachers at the same school and bonded over their shared sense of adventure. After launching their kayaks from the beach just before 9 a.m., they paddled northwards around Latigo Point towards Paradise Cove, their usual training route. The wind was light, and the seas were pretty calm as they paddled into the sea. Little did they know that this would be the last time they'd be seen alive. About 100 yards out, they remained on the shore side of the kelp beds, knowing it was safer not to paddle beyond them, as kelp forests are a natural deterrent to sharks. The wind picked up as they paddled around Latigo Point, and the sea surface became rough. Feeling the pull of the rope connecting their kayaks, they lashed their kayaks together to keep Tamara from being blown off course. They continued, and Roy made headway in the lead kayak, with Tamara following closely behind. The wind buffeted them and they struggled against the waves. Suddenly, without warning, a tremendous smash came from below the water. Something from the depths torpedoed upward and struck the kayaks, throwing them into the sea. Tamara resurfaced, coughing and sputtering, unsure of what had just happened. Seconds later, she felt a tremendous tug on her left thigh and was pulled underwater. She desperately tried to pull herself to the surface, but a shark had a firm grip on her leg. The shark twisted and turned underwater, causing her to lose consciousness. Roy, who had knocked his head on his kayak during the attack, swam over to Tamara and managed to grab her hand, pulling her above the water's surface. He held on to her, trying to keep her afloat, but he struggled to flip the upturned kayaks due to their weight. Witnesses nearby saw an incredible water boiling and thrashing about in the distance. The commotion was near a large United States Coast Guard buoy, where several SEALs had leaped out of the water in distress. Roy continued to try and flip the kayaks, but Tamara's injuries were severe, and she was slipping away. The shark returned and attacked again, dragging Roy underwater. He was never seen again. The kayaks were found upturned less than 20 miles from where they had launched, with stress fractures along their hulls and holes in one of them. An engineer concluded that a great white shark, weighing at least 2,000 pounds, must have caused the damage. 2 days after the attack, Tamara's body was found floating in the water near Channel Islands Harbor, 30 miles north of Paradise Cove. She had deep bite wounds on her upper thighs, and the severity of the injuries indicated a great white shark measuring at least 5 feet long was the cause of the fatality. Despite a week-long search by the United States Coast Guard, no trace of Roy was ever found. The young couple's lives were tragically cut short, doing what they loved in the ocean, which is a stark reminder that it is the shark's habitat, not ours. Regardless of how experienced and prepared one may be, a single encounter with these apex predators can lead to a fatal outcome, as it did for Roy and Tamara, whose lives were taken by the unpredictability of nature and the relentless instincts of a great white shark. The attack's impact was devastating for their families, friends, and community. Their colleagues raised the alarm when they didn't attend work the next day. The incident serves as a somber reminder that while the ocean and its beaches offer beautiful and thrilling experiences, they are also the habitat of formidable creatures like great white sharks. No matter how experienced or well-prepared one may be, an encounter with these predators can quickly become life-threatening. Their lives were cut short while doing what they loved, and their memory serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between human adventure and nature's untamed forces. Roy and Tamara will forever be remembered for their love for life and their sense of experience, and their tragic story will continue to resonate as a cautionary tale for those who seek thrills and excitement in the great outdoors. On Saturday, June 5, 1993, husband and wife Ian and Terry Cartwright set out to sea with their 5 children. Ian was skippering the Australian maritime college vessel Riveresco in the Bass Strait, just off the Tasmanian coast. They were headed to Barrenjoey Seal Convoy on 10th Island, an uninhabited granite outcrop known for being home to a large breeding colony of Australian sea lions, with up to 400 pups born there yearly. The area was a nature reserve, offering excellent diving and snorkeling experiences, and conserving this habitat was important for marine biodiversity and scientific research. Terry Cartwright worked with staff at the Australian Maritime College at the University of Tasmania. The other divers on board the Riveresco included Stephen Ears, a marine fisheries lecturer at the college, and his colleague Josephine Osborne. Stephen had invited Terry and Josephine to enjoy his research and observe the sea lion's behavior. Terry was eager to join in and experience the interactions with the sea lions, as they were well known in the area for being very interactive with divers, often displaying playfulness and coming very close to the people in the water. Terry asked Ian to anchor in a channel on the southern side of the island. Ian motored the boat to the spot and released the anchor chain. The depth reader read 15 meters, about 150 meters from the mainland. Ian and Terry's children leaned over the side of the boat. They watched the anchor splash into the water and disappeared into the depths. With the calm seas, it was easy for Terry, Stephen, and Josephine to put on their gear. Terry slipped into a 2-piece wetsuit, pulled the hood over her head, and slipped into her yellow fins. Stephen lifted her yellow air cylinder onto her back, and Terry clipped it up. Stephen dropped into the water first, signaling that it was okay to the rest of the crew, and he began swimming away from the boat. The second to enter the water was Terry, closely followed by Josephine. Terry was an experienced scuba diver but hadn't been in the water for over a year. She was excited to be back among the marine wildlife that she loved so much. Once in the water, Terry signaled that she was okay, but she was fumbling with her equipment. She bobbed on the surface as she tried to adjust the regulator in her mask. Assuming Terry was close behind them, Stephen and Josephine began swimming on the water's surface towards 10th Island. As they did so, seals came swimming up to them, their whiskered faces inches from their masks. Stephen ducked his head underwater, and below them, the sea lions were darting about, swimming up to the divers' feet and then swimming back down. The sea was a hive of activity. Terry's husband Ian and another crew member, Ian Rinkin, shouted at Terry, signaling her to hurry up and catch up to the others. She was lagging behind, and it was safer for them to stick together as a group. Finally, Terry sorted out her equipment and turned to see her friends 20 meters away. She swam to catch up. Despite not being in the water for a long time, Terry was a fit 35-year-old and quickly caught up to the others. The three of them bobbed on the surface together briefly before descending just meters from the rocks of 10th Island. Terry marveled at the scenery as they dropped beneath the ocean's surface. The visibility was fantastic, and she watched as the sea lions glided by effortlessly. Stephen and Josephine made it to the bottom of the ocean and looked up to see Terry paused in her descent. Terry felt the pressure build in her ears. She pinched her nose and blew, but nothing happened. The tension in her ears grew as she continued to dive deeper. She tried repeatedly to equalize her ears, and suddenly she was hit with an incredible force from out of nowhere. It knocked the air from her lungs as she was thrown through the water. The regulator was ripped from her mouth and bubbles surrounded her. Stephen and Josephine hovered just above the seafloor, shocked as they saw a 15-foot great white shark torpedo directly into Terry. Disoriented, Terry wheeled around as the shark came at her once more. Its enormous mouth clamped down around her torso, and she let out a muted cry, air bubbles escaping from her mouth. Stephen and Josephine looked on in horror as a shadow of red engulfed their friend, as the shark ravaged her, thrashing her body around in the water. They hid behind the underwater rocks, hardly daring to peek over the top. Sea lions all dispersed, swimming away or leaping out of the water onto the island. The two divers froze in terror. They desperately wanted to reach Terry, but they couldn't see where the shark was. Then, as Stephen decided to make a dash toward Terry's limp body, they saw the toothy grin of the shark emerge through the red-stained murkiness. Its mighty tail drove it through the water at 16 miles per hour. Its top lip curled backward as its immense jaws opened once more and grabbed hold of Terry again. It dragged her deeper and deeper until Terry was out of sight. Stephen and Josephine made a dash for the island and resurfaced as quickly as they could. Ian and the children had been watching from the boat. They had seen a commotion but were unaware of the horror that had occurred in the depths. When Stephen and Josephine frantically made it out of the water and onto 10th Island, they shouted and screamed at Ian to bring the boat over. Knowing there was some kind of emergency and seeing that Terry hadn't resurfaced, Ian Cartwright and Ian Rinkin jumped into the 11-foot dinghy and rowed to the island as quickly as they could. During the heart-stopping news of his wife, the distraught Ian took charge and searched the area in his boat for over half an hour. He then had to deliver the devastating news to their 6-year-old quadruplets and 11-month-old son, who were waiting patiently on the boat with no sign of Terry above the water. Ian radioed Bell Bay for help and initiated a sea and air search. During the afternoon, pieces of Terry's wetsuit surfaced a kilometer from the attack site. One of her legs with the yellow fin still attached was also pulled from the sea. No other trace of Terry was ever found. The incident serves as a tragic reminder of the dangers posed by great white sharks and the need for caution when engaging in activities in the ocean. It is believed that the shark mistook Terry for a struggling sea lion, dressed predominantly in black among the swarms of sea lions in the area. This case of mistaken identity led to her horrifying final affliction. This heart-wrenching incident is a stark reminder that the enchanting underwater world is also a domain of predators. Even with safety precautions, the ocean remains unpredictable, and encounters with formidable creatures like great white sharks can have devastating consequences. The tragedy of Terry Cartwright's death highlights the importance of understanding and respecting the marine environment, and the need for caution while engaging in water activities.